Hello, my friends, and I hope you're having a fantastic day. I know what people want, so I am giving you more of it. Here is a picture of Grace and the four little girls. They are sleeping. I tried to get individual pictures again today, but she's just not in the mood to let me deal with it, even though she does let me weigh them, but that's a pretty quick process overall. I know when they get bigger, I will have more opportunity to hold them. It's just so hard to resist when they're so tiny and they're so cute. But yep, there they are. Everybody's grown fine. The big one is now over 10 ounces and the littlest is now at 8. So they're growing really nicely. It'll be just a matter of time before they're over a pound. And I'm sure that we will start seeing eyes in the next few days, possibly. It looked to me like someone was getting close, but 14 days really is the average normally for puppies, so it's a little early to expect anything, but I still like to keep an eye and make sure everybody's growing at the proper rate. Obviously, my camera stand is still broken and I haven't had the time to figure things out. A little busy working, but I will have that hopefully figured out in the next few days. That said, I would like to remind everybody that if you are interested in supporting the channel, you can do so by becoming a member down below, or if you are not interested in giving YouTube any portion of your money, I also have a Ko-Fi, and there's also a link below for that. For those of you who prefer to support in other ways, there's also a Throne wish list, which if I can determine what my replacement will be, and I find I don't have the immediate funds for it, I may add that on there, but I don't know how I feel about that. I always feel a little weird advertising that thing, but someone suggested it, so I went ahead and set one up. So someone did send me a lovely gift for the cats, which they very much enjoyed. That's it. This is an article that came out shortly before the Game Awards announcements, but it kind of shows a little bit of pre-cope before the Game Awards even came out, and kind of exposed me to some, I guess, animosity between games journalists, or at least this game journalist, and Jeff Keighley that I hadn't been aware existed previously. I know that there are a lot of people who feel negatively about Jeff Keighley for various reasons, and I have no opinion on him. I've long thought since the early 2000s, late 90s, that games reviews and game awards were really kind of pointless. They haven't reflected gamers for a very long time, and it just feels like now that most of the gamers are waking up to it. But I feel the same way about movie reviews too. That said, this says the Game Awards has bigger problems than Shadow of the Erd Tree. And I went through and highlighted a couple portions here in this article. Apparently, this is not the first DLC to be presented in a category. Apparently, they did the same thing for last year for Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty, but they didn't put it in Game of the Year. They put it in Best Ongoing Game. And a lot of people were upset with that because ongoing game is more for live service, continual games that have gone on for a long time, as opposed to just adding to a game in terms of a DLC. This person was also quite upset, being that it really just fixed problems that the game should have fixed to begin with. I didn't highlight this paragraph, but I really feel like you get a good sense of where this author's coming from it. She says, you can nominate anything you like for the Game Awards. You could put your grandmother up for Best Debut Indie, and as long as enough people voted for her, Keighley would get her up on a stage getting an award from Sydney Sweeney, or at least he would if Best Debut Indie was a category he cared about. He's been accused of caring too much about who wins, wanting Elden Ring back, being desperate to stop an anime JRPG and Metaphor Refantasio taking home the crown, but the truth is, he doesn't care enough. I find that very amusing. This entire article really comes off as this author does not believe that Keighley does this for any reason other than to collect money from advertisers, which sounds totally plausible to me, all things considered, when you look at how the judging is skewed more towards the industry and absolutely nowhere near the fans. When it's a 90% to 10% weighted decision, that's when I genuinely wonder what is even the point of voting. Because they're basically saying right there, they don't really care what you think. They might look at it, and they're certainly giving you the illusion that they care, but they don't actually care. That opinion is actually screamed right here In this paragraph, the awards are not a big part of the Game Awards, which is odd considering their name and considering he's trying to trademark them. But whatever games win are just background set dressing to a stream of highly profitable commercials and the chance to rub shoulders with celebrities. We've seen odd nominees before, and Keeley's attitude has always been, don't shoot me, I'm only the host, organizer, and face of the entire production. But she does go on to point out that other times the rules have been bent, if not basically broken, was when Dave the Diver was nominated for Best Indie, despite the fact it was produced by Nexon, which is a large corporation, and when Among Us was nominated in 2020, even though it was released in 2018. So it seems that while I have never paid a lot of attention to the Game Awards, they have never really had clear delineated rules, even though I'm sure a lot of people have assumed they have. It basically just feels like they're saying, well, we'll put whatever we want where we want, and y'all are just going to have to deal with it. Now, how you feel that fits a Game Award, I don't know. For me, it's again a big I don't know, because I've never been huge into the Game Awards. And there's an entire section in this article about how the Game Awards is destined to be controversial this year. And I had this section that I wanted to read to you. A groundswell of toxicity has risen unchecked this year in gaming. Oh my God, it sounds like they're actually noticing our efforts. I appreciate that so much. This is one of those times I have absolutely zero issues with being called toxic. It has an outsized influence in the YouTube algorithm and on X, the Everything app, as long as that thing aligns with Elon Musk's increasingly erratic views. But it's still disheartening to see gaming companies shove their fingers in their ears. Wow, I wonder what it feels like to see gaming companies shove their fingers in their ears. It's not like they've been ignoring the actual players for ages now, right? Not like they've totally just dismissed what we might want to see, or the things that we've talked about or mentioned or said that we don't like. I can't imagine what that might feel like to actually be totally ignored by the gaming industry. To continue, though it is impressive they managed to do that with their heads buried in the sand at the same time. I'm saying I agree entirely on that point. Granted, we might disagree on who they should be listening to, but whatever. I don't expect Keeley to address this at the show, and I don't think he could say anything to help, but his stay out of everything attitude will not wash this time. Now, you see, what I don't understand about this sentence is that on one hand, she's saying she doesn't expect Keeley to say anything and she doesn't think he can help, but at the same time, she doesn't like his stay out of everything attitude. So if what he might say won't do anything and she doesn't actually expect him to address it, what does she expect him to do? What is she expecting here? It's kind of like a pointless jab. It's like, you can't do anything anyway, but I'm upset that you're not doing anything. What is he supposed to do? Realistically, what has he ever done other than run a mediocre game show that's really a commercial? I don't know. I was blissfully, more or less, unaware of Jeff Keighley until recent years, when people started talking about him and talking about Hideo Kojima and him and a whole bunch of other things and something about Doritos and other stuff I don't pay attention to. And the most I know is, Dragon Age Origins had a Game of the Year award. Dragon Age Inquisition had a Game of the Year award. But did that really actually mean anything to me? No, because I played Origins before it ever had the Game of the Year award. And I just bought the Game of the Year edition for Inquisition because that's what was available. Going on, he'll be meeting the grinder with the rest of us, and it remains to be seen how a man buoyed by populism and never having a public opinion beyond loving a video game deals with it. I mean, I imagine he'll deal with it the same way he has been. I don't know how much that will really change. And I can't really say how much, because goes on to say the Game Awards will become a new battleground. I think as gamers, we've all basically decided that it doesn't really matter, more or less, what happens at the Game Awards. We have things that we want to see, and many people really just watch it as more of a litmus test for how things are going, the direction things seem to be going. The fact that Dragon Age the Veilguard is not in the Game of the Year category and is in only one category is kind of a little bit buoying for the gamers in terms of, hey, maybe people are starting to listen, but you don't really know if they're starting to listen or not. It's kind of all of a guess, And just as much as this author dislikes Jeff Keighley, you can tell that she also dislikes gamers, or at least she dislikes the vocal gamers that you find online on YouTube, etc., pointing out that if Black Myth Wukong, an outsider for Game of the Year, which again, this was 2 days ago, so this was before the announcement of the nominees, and Stellar Blade, which she defines as a no-hoper, are not nominated in every category, some will deem it a personal insult and fire back in kind. Well, both got nominations. Black Myth Wukong getting Game of the Year. Stellar Blade is in Best Action Game, I believe. And looking at some of her critiques of Stellar Blade, I haven't played the game, but they at least sound logical as opposed to hammering on the fact that Eve is sexist. It seems that her biggest issue is that the gameplay felt repetitive and that she felt there was a lost opportunity in terms of making Eve not just physically sexy, but giving her more of a personality as well. I haven't played the game. I have no actual opinion. But of course, she goes on to say, if this whole thing had started earlier, Hogwarts being snubbed at the Game Awards would have been huge. And, it was pretty huge. People didn't get as loud. But at the same time, people did get upset. There were people who were very upset because there was excuses such as it was released too close to the cutoff or it hasn't been out long enough. And then you have games on there that have been released within approximately the same amount of time, and they're on the Game Awards. So it's kind of crazy that happens. But I will say at the same time, people have been getting louder, have been pushing harder back. And I guess it's not that people have been getting louder. It's that because X took the training wheels off when Elon bought it and turned it in from Twitter to X, and people were actually able to get what they were saying out there, out where people could see it. Not only could they see us, but we could see each other. And we are now better able to coordinate, talk about, and push our ideas forward because people can see us. We're not being pushed down constantly because the algorithm's skewed. And they will always say, well, X has changed. X is toxic now. No, it's no more toxic than it was before. The difference is that now you are forced to actually see and engage with opinions that don't necessarily agree with yours. There is now blue sky if you want to go live in your own little echo chamber. However, that doesn't seem to be going very well for them either when you consider they appear to be self-reporting each other into oblivion. But, that's a whole thing that they get to fight with. I have an account over there, but that's only so that I can go through and check out posts that have been posted over on Twitter for validity. Like I said, I really feel like this was the lead up to the COPE in terms of how the Game Award nominees went. I know there were a number of surprises, like the fact that Veilguard wasn't in Game of the Year. A lot of people expected that just because of the message. It didn't even get into the category that is specifically made for the message. It just got accessibility. The fact that Black Myth Wukong is in so many different categories. I know a lot of people were blindsided by Balaltro because they have no idea what it was, even though it's always funny how that kind of stuff works. People say, I had never heard about this, and there's a whole study in different types of biases that cover that. I always find it amusing when people start acting like just because they haven't heard of something, it doesn't exist. I'm guilty of doing the same thing. I try not to, but we are only human. We can't and we won't ever see everything. But seeing all the articles coming out saying that Black Myth Wukong doesn't deserve the nomination, I've named 2 right here off the back. One of the lowest rated Game of the Year nominees doesn't deserve a Game of the Year. Sticks out like a sore thumb, lowest rated ever. It's kind of funny, that they are so upset that Black Myth Wukong got this nomination. Just because it's the lowest ever doesn't mean that it necessarily deserves that. And of course, they're going with the critic score. I'd be curious what the comparison with the user score is. You know what? I can actually make that happen. I can look at that on my own video, I suppose, as opposed to just freaking, what's the word? Conjecturing. I can actually, I just clicked on a Kotaku article. Gross. Now, let's see how that theory holds out when we look at the user ratings. So first, let's look at Black Myth Wukong is an 8.3. Astrobot is a 9.3. And here we are tied. Bell Ultra is an 8.3. Elden Ring is actually lower at an 8.1 for the user rating. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is a 9. And Metaphor ReFantasio is an 8.9. So realistically, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree actually has a lower user score than Black Myth Wukong, which, if you ask me, is the more important metric to use, especially when you consider the fact that Black Myth Wukong lost points with certain outlets based on the fact that it is not inclusive enough. There was not enough diversity in it, and it didn't have enough women and all that other fun stuff. To top it off, the user score for Elden Ring is based on 2,812 ratings, where Black Myth Wukong is based on 6,646. Let's check one more thing. On Steam, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree is currently mixed, whereas Black Myth Wukong is overwhelmingly positive. Elden Ring has a 70% positive out of all reviews, and then Black Myth Wukong has 96% positive of all reviews. So when you exclude the critic scores, Black Myth Wukong is actually rated higher than Elden Ring. So their whole argument here really just relates to, we didn't like it as the games media and we're mad that they didn't listen to us. Which, nothing new for their whining. As a quick reminder, I am still pushing for 5K subscribers by the end of the year. So if you aren't subscribed, please go ahead and consider it. I would genuinely appreciate it. Plus, you get the perks of, if you hit the little button, knowing when my videos come out. But what do you guys think? Do you think we're going to see a whole lot of cope? I mean, I think I've made it pretty clear. I think the Game Awards are silly. And I will probably... The only reason I'm going to watch at this stage is to see if there's any new games coming out that I might be interested in, because the games that have already come out, I already know if I'm interested in or not. A bunch of secretive companies now hiding behind a wall who have 90% of the power to decide which of these games is supposedly the best means absolutely nothing to me. So I don't understand the point of giving this award, any of these awards, any weight whatsoever. It's just like the Oscars. It's a big old circle jerk, except this one has even less integrity somehow, if you can believe that. What do you guys think, though? Do you think that these are valid in any way? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Please like, comment, subscribe, and turn on the notifications. If you really liked it, you can feel free to share it around, and I will catch you later.